Ray, so check this out. So we have now Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, and Ford that's actually offering employee discount pricing, and this is something that we've seen with these brands. That okay, Ford started out, and then we had Stellantis that matched it. It could be a situation where we're starting some kind of race to the bottom, but I really wanted to find out okay, what was going on with the pricing. I actually went to a Jeep dealership this morning, so I wanted to ask questions, see what employee pricing really meant. Because I know there's different layers of employee pricing. I know between Ford and Stellantis, they're going to have different definitions of what employee pricing is, what it meant, and does it this even mean anything? Because in my estimations, I would assume that it is just a big marketing ploy that doesn't have a lot of substance beside it. So anyway, I went and looked at a Jeep Sport. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. This is actually something that I'm interested in. If the price gets low enough, maybe I'll buy one. So this is what I went to go look at, a Wrangler. The price on it was like $39,900. It was right at $40,000. And with the employee pricing, what I found out is that its incentive is invoice price minus 2%. So I know in Ford's case, they were doing invoice price minus like 2,000, $2,500 somewhere around there, from what I heard from you guys talking to another Ford dealer. And Jeep's not that great. But here's the thing that was interesting to me. I talked to actual sales manager. He said, we can do that. You can do employee pricing if you want to, but if you take the rebates that were already in effect, then we can sell it to you at invoice, and then we can take $2,500 off for the Jeep rebates, and you end up actually saving more money. So if you want to go in and take advantage of their all new deal with employee pricing, well, you end up, the price is actually more expensive doing that than it was before they implemented all of these discounts and sales.
Yeah, Stellantis is doing it as an either or, it's up to the dealer to sit down and work with the customer and figure out which is the least expensive way for the customer to go. At Ford, their employee pricing deal is actually printed on every new vehicle invoice that qualifies for employee pricing. So the invoice amount will be X. The dealer employee price would be a lower price than that. A supplier price would be lower than the invoice, but the Ford employee price would be the lowest published value on the invoice for those Ford employees. So the example that we used last week on our show, it was a vehicle that had an invoice of around, if I remember correctly, $65,000, and the Ford employee price was like $62,500. So it was a $2,500 savings behind invoice. So whatever the dealer paid, in that case, it was $2,500 less, and it's printed on the invoice, and that's what they have to charge. That doesn't mean that if there are customer incentives, if the customer incentives are greater than $2,500, that the customer couldn't say, okay, sell me the vehicle at invoice or near invoice and give me the customer incentives that are $3,000 or $35,000. But Ford isn't giving you that option. Ford's option is everybody gets employee pricing, and the incentives have basically gone away. Chrysler or Stellantis has said everybody qualifies for employee pricing, or you can utilize the rebates, whichever is cheapest for you. The one nice thing, I said it the day Ford came out with it. This was a PR coup. That's exactly what it was. They looked at a situation that could portend bad things for the American public out there, that could indicate that pricing is going to eventually go through the roof. And Ford said, how can we turn a bad situation into a positive for people? okay, we're going to pretend everybody in America that wants to buy a Ford product that qualifies can buy it at the Ford employee price at participating dealerships. A Ford dealer does not have to participate in the program. So they took a bad situation and tried to put a positive spin on it. And, I mean, it was a beautiful marketing tool. It garnered headlines all across the United States. You can't ask for much more than that from your marketing department. Whether or not it spurs sales, I would think it might, because it's for the dealerships that participate. It's going to make life easier for the customers. Pick out your vehicle. Here's the invoice. Here's the price that we have to charge you based on what Ford says. Negotiations are over.
So here's my question to you, and I'm going to ask this. I'm actually talking to the same Ford dealership that you talked to last week later today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask them the same question. I want to ask it to you because you're going to be able to speak a little bit more freely than they can.
Okay.
So the example that you said that you pulled up with them, the MSRP was $66,000.
No. The
it,
invoice was like $65,000. That wasn't the MSRP was probably closer to $70,000. But Zach didn't show that portion of the invoice.
Got it.
So that's what people were getting confused. They were thinking it was $2,500 off of MSRP. It was $2,500 behind invoice.
Yeah, and a lot of times I pull up these invoice prices. I can use Car Edge and pull up a lot of these invoice prices, and the spread between invoice and MSRP on most of these vehicles, whether you're looking at Ford, whatever, very thin. Usually, it's only a couple $1,000s. What I'm seeing.
Yes.
So if you take a $65-ish thousand vehicle and the invoice on it's like 63 grand, and they're taking 2,500 back of that, then you're ending up $61,500, $62,000 for this truck. That was $65,000, $66,000. My thing is though, with Fords and F-150s and Broncos, I've seen all these negotiation YouTube videos. I've seen a lot of the deals that you guys from Car Edge are able to get customers, and a good deal on a Ford right now is like 15% off MSRP. And that's after negotiating. So in a lot of cases for the average consumer who's going in and actually trying to negotiate a deal, this employee pricing is actually making the vehicle more expensive for them.
It could be. Here's what you have to realize. What everybody has to realize is they are only going to throw so much money at any given vehicle for incentives. Whether that incentive be will pretend you worked for Ford manufacturing, and so you get Ford employee pricing, or we don't do Ford employee pricing for everybody, and we just have customer rebates and customer incentives. Now, from what I understand, at Ford, there's a limited number of incentives that are stackable with employee pricing. But manufacturers can typically only afford to do one or the other. They're only willing to commit so many dollars per vehicle sold to incentives. The average today is about $3,385 on average from manufacturers that they're spending towards incentives. So whether that $3,385 is giving you the employee price and you're buying it for, a $70,000 truck for 10% off, or it's based off of MSRP, and people then have to negotiate off of MSRP and take advantage of a $3,385 incentive. The cost to the manufacturer is essentially the same. So that's why it's usually a one or the other type of thing. When they have special interest rates, well, you can get the special interest rate, or you can get the cash rebate. Well, the special interest rate, probably the buy down to get that rate, probably costs just about the same as the customer rebate, the cash rebate. So they're pretty much equal. It's X number of dollars it's going to get spent on incentives. It's just how you want to slice it up, but it's the same amount you're slicing either way.
Yeah, and this is what can get confusing for buyers. I mean, it's confusing for me. I walked into this Jeep dealership this morning and was able to go talk to the sales manager. This is a Jeep dealership I go to a lot, record a lot. Maybe they knew exactly who I was. I don't know. But I was able to walk in there and they didn't even talk about MSRP. They said, okay, we can, the employee discount, this is what it is. You can do this, but I'll just sell you one at invoice, and then we can just take off the rebate. Like, there wasn't even a discussion, a negotiation surrounding MSRP. It was like, look, I'm going to sell you this at cost, and then we're going to take more money off of it from Jeep. So that is immediately what they said to me. I didn't have to sit down, do the runaround, anything. Like I said, there's a chance maybe they knew exactly who I was. So we'll put that in there, but they didn't take my information, anything. They said, okay, this Jeep that has an MSRP of $40,000, we can get it to you at 36 grand after, invoice, and then, 2,500 back of invoice. So that's what I hope a lot of consumers watching me, you, watching Car Edge, watching my channels, to be able to see that even though they're doing this headline employee pricing, before this even came out, a good price on a Jeep, Dodge, Ram is like 20% off MSRP right now. A good price on a Ford F-150, a Bronco, whatever you're looking at Ford, is probably close to like 15% off of MSRP. And you'll be able to get that. It doesn't matter about the rebates. It doesn't matter about the incentives. Throw all that out the door. When you negotiate your number and what you are actually going to pay when you're going out the door. That's the only thing that matters to you as a consumer.
Well, I mean, what's the thing that I've talked about for years? As a consumer, you want to negotiate an out the door price. Okay, certain portions of that out the door price are controlled by the state. What do I mean by that? The sales tax. It's a percentage of the agreed upon selling price. Okay, I can't change that percentage. Okay, the state fee to get a title or registration, those fees are set by the state. I can't change that. What I can negotiate is the amount that we're willing to buy the car for. Let's say that Jeep has an MSRP of $40,000. So you're looking at it and you go, well, I want to get, if I can get 10% off, that's $4,000 off. And I think I should be able to get 20% off. So that would be $8,000 off. So you're going to negotiate the selling price. I want the selling price to be $32,000 plus fees. Now, what are all the fees? The sales tax, which is a percentage that you can't change, the state title fee, registration fee, which the state charges that you can't change. And then there's a dock fee that the dealer is going to charge you that you might be able to negotiate off, but more than likely, if you've gotten 20% off on the vehicle, they ain't giving up their dock fee. They need to make money somewhere. I mean, I'll say this about our friends, J.C. Lewis. Their dock fee is $899. If they sell the car at invoice, they're making $900 before you talk about holdback, before you talk about floor plan assistance, before you talk about advertising assistance. So dock fee plays an important part. You go to Florida, we've seen dock fees as much as $1,500. I could advertise a car $1,000 below invoice. But if I'm charging you a $1,500 dock fee, I guess I'm actually selling it to you for $500 over invoice. So you want to negotiate. There's certain fees you can negotiate and certain fees you can't. The stuff that's taxable, you can negotiate. The stuff that isn't taxable, you can't negotiate. But you always want to negotiate the total selling price of the vehicle, the price that you've agreed to, plus whatever dealer installed accessories they've insisted you must buy and that you finally relented and agreed to, plus the dock fee, which is taxable, plus sales tax, title, and license fees. So if you can buy it for $32,000 and with all the fees, it's, I don't know, 36 or 35 out the door, because fees are usually about 10%. So if it's 35,000 out the door, 35.5 out the door, that's the number you need to be concerned with. But it's based off of the initial agreed upon selling price.
So since we're talking about all these invoice pricing and dealers selling back of invoice for this, when I say back of invoice, for those of you that don't know the lingo or whatever, just means under invoice, right?
Yes.
We talk about this Jeep where they have 2% under invoice, and then Ford, it looks like it's invoiced and then minus like $2,000, $2,500 depending on the model.
Yes.
So when a dealer does that, how do they make money? And I want you to go through a couple different things when a dealer is selling a car at cost to them. Where are they actually getting their money from if it's not from the consumer?
Okay. Obviously, if the car's being sold below invoice, for less than what the dealer paid for it, the manufacturer makes that up. Okay, it's Ford's not asking their dealers to lose $2,500 or $2,000 for every car they sell. They're reimbursing the dealer that. And for instance, when I was with Mini and Mini and BMW, their employee deals for people that work at dealerships are just incredible. The Minis, when I was getting them, it was whatever invoice was less $1,750. Okay, less everything was stackable, less any incentives that were available on that vehicle to the general public. So if there was another rebate, a $1,500 rebate to the general public, well, you got that as well. So, suddenly you're $3,250 less than invoice, which on a Mini, you were somewhere around 15% below MSRP. How did the dealer make the money? Well, they were reimbursed for the loss that they took on the vehicle, plus they were paid by Mini a $250 delivery fee. So it wasn't like the dealership was making a lot. Oh, and the dealership also charged you the dock fee, even as an employee. So they made that. And will
they also get holdback on every vehicle, even if they lose money on the vehicle?
Well, that was if there was holdback, that was counted against what the manufacturer would have to give you back to make you whole. So ultimately, what made the concept was that the $250 delivery fee is what you were making on the deal. So it wasn't incumbent upon a dealer to sell every car at that price. The idea was to get as many of their employees driving those vehicles as they could, so that those employees could become a salesperson for the dealership, whether you were a tech, a mechanic, whether you were a parts manager, whatever. BMW and Mini just wanted you in their product. Now, in this case at Ford, I have no idea what the ultimate delivery fee is, but I'm guessing if they're going to do all vehicles at employee pricing, it's going to be more than $250 net that the dealer gets. Okay, so in the case of J.C. Lewis, let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $500 net that they get for selling that car. Okay, plus the holdback, whatever, all that, and the $899 dock fee. So there you are. You're $1,400, $1,500 that they're making. They can survive on that.
Yeah, and that's even before you get in the F&I office, right? Because they're still going to make money on products back there too.
Oh, absolutely. You're not taking away the opportunities for extra income by saying, now at Mini they did. At Mini it was amazing. If you leased a vehicle or bought the vehicle, didn't matter, but I leased mine. If you leased it, there was no initialized inception fee, which was normally $695, the inception fee. was waived. Okay. Whatever the buy rate was on the money factor, that's all finance could charge you. They weren't allowed to mark up the money factor at all. If, as an employee, you purchased it and you were financing it, they weren't allowed to charge you any more than what the buy rate was on the loan. So on those type of employee deals, the dealership was kind of stuck. But on this type of situation, yeah, the dealership's free to sell the customer whatever the hell the dealership can get away with. If you've got a really good F&I person and he creates enough value in all those protection packages that are available, and the average back end on F&I today is close to $2,000. If between the dock fee and the delivery fee they're making $1,500, and the finance people are really good and they're averaging $2,000, well, you got a $3,500 deal. I take a couple of hundred of those every month. I think on the whole we could be making a poop ton of money. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I guess they're not going to. They won't starve on that. So okay, here's another. Let's take this a different direction. So we have a bunch of brands that are coming out and saying that they're even going to increase prices. I know Audi said that they're going to be increasing prices across the board because of tariffs. We've got a couple other brands. I know Nissan. There were a few models that they were going to increase prices, and then they had a few different models they were going to decrease prices. Either way, the anticipation is that prices will go up in some capacity.
Yes,
pretty much across the board. So how much trouble are Ford and Stellantis in, where when a lot of other brands are saying this, they're coming out saying, no, we're going to lower our prices. You now come and buy these cars because in the face of price increases, we're going to lower our prices. At least that's what the marketing says.
Well, they're not. They're not lowering their prices. The MSRP hasn't gone down.
That's the message to consumer. I understand with you. That's the message to consumers.
What in essence they're doing is they're just making it easier for you to get to your bottom line number. Okay. They've taken away the 4-hour negotiation process. That's what they've done. And, Stellantis, they're only doing this through the end of April 30th. Ford is doing it through June 2nd. Neither one of them has said, oh, by the way, if our costs go up, we're ultimately going to end up raising the MSRPs and the invoice costs of these cars, which they will do.
So if their price goes up, the employee price goes up too, right?
Bingo!
Yeah.
Yes, because the employee price is based on the MSRP and the invoice. So if those numbers go up, so is the employee price ultimately. But all they're doing is they've created a way to make it a tad bit more transparent for dealerships and that want to participate. I mean, that's, we've taken away the 4 hours of negotiation. You can start at 70 and you're going to ultimately get down to 62.5. Okay. Or you could come in and it's like, hey, the car was 70, but because you're an employee, wink, 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 you get it for the 62.5. Do you want to wait a couple hours before we tell you that? Or can we just tell you that now and start the paperwork?
It's funny that you use the word transparency with this and getting to the number faster stuff, but to get to this transparency, it's almost like they have to do smoke and mirrors to make it more isn't it so just convoluted how the car market works, where to be transparent, we have to be more shady over here on our marketing sides.
There is an editorial on Automotive News today, and the editorial is that the way to combat tariff price increases is to become radically more transparent. And I sent the editorial to Zach, and I said, at least in my mind, when your whole business has been built on being the least transparent of any type of sale out there, why suddenly do you think if you said, well, we're going to become transparent. Why do you think anybody would believe you? You have spent 125 years convincing people you are anything but transparent. But now, there's no smoke and mirrors. There's no other. Here we go. Here, the industry is just screwed in the sense that they have created the animosity between the dealers, the manufacturers, and the customers, because everything has always been smoke and mirrors and bait and switch. But today, we're going to be the most transparent we can possibly be. Nobody's going to believe that, not for a second.
I have a chicken or the egg kind of question for you. So, since there's always been all of this level of shade in the car market, and it's from the manufacturers, it's also from the dealers. One of them started it, right? So it was one of them that started it, and then the other one had to have shade to protect themselves from the other one. And then you have consumers that get into the mix, and we know, well, you hear it in the car market, buyers are liars too. So we also have that. So where did all the shadiness in your mind, where do you believe it began?
Well, here's what you got to realize. It wasn't until the early 70s, mid 70s, whatever it was, when Monroney labels, window stickers, the MSRP label had to be affixed to a car. Prior to that, the price of the vehicle was based on the enthusiasm of the customer because there was no MSRP. Let me show you the vehicle, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. And if they were really excited, the price of that vehicle just went up. If the customers were like less than excited, well, then perhaps the price of the vehicle came down because there was no published price. It wasn't until Senator Monroney from Oklahoma put together a bill that there had to be a window sticker on vehicles explaining the pricing, explaining everything that was standard, what the base price was, what the package price was, what the destination and handling charges were, and what the bottom line was. So when did it start? It started when the car business started and they didn't have window stickers for 60 years. I mean, come on, think about it.
Well, we learned in the last 4 years the window stickers don't even matter because you can just add an extra $15,000, $20,000 onto it, and guess what? Consumers will pay it.
And there's nothing that the manufacturer can do about that, because the truth of the matter is the manufacturer's customer is the dealership. And the dealership's customer is the ultimate retail buyer. And that's why it's a manufacturer suggested retail price. It's not a mandated price. It's just a suggestion. And if there's a shortage and the market will bear more than that, dealerships are free to sell at whatever the market will pay. And when there's a glut of vehicles, dealerships will sell in many cases at a loss because that's all the market will bear. So, and if and until we have prices set in stone by the manufacturer, like at Saturn, the price is the price, this is just going to continue.
I wish there would be some kind of law on used car dealers. Like myself, I'm a used car dealer, so yeah. I will let you know I'm an advocate for you as a consumer, but I wish there were laws on us that we would have to actually post our price similar to what you have like an MSRP on a new, because you go to a used car dealership and it's like a freaking yard sale, right? You go and you ask what the price is of the cars. Like, oh, well, how much you want to pay for it?
Well, that goes back to the days of before the Monroney label. How many new car dealerships sell used cars and don't have prices on their used cars on the lot? And the only way you're going to get a price is, well, you have to talk to a salesperson, and the price of the vehicle becomes based on the enthusiasm of the customer. Now, they could have a used car price list that says, hey, it's really $29,995, but it's not published anywhere and it's not on the car itself. So, the devious salesperson will take your pulse to see how excited you are about the car. And if you're excited about the car, he might tell you it's $32,995, knowing full well that they're really only asking $29,995. So it's like pre-window stickers. The level of excitement and enthusiasm of the customer determined the price of the car.
I remember early in the pandemic, whenever all the cars just evaporated and we couldn't find cars, and we started buying some cars kind of out of our range a little bit because we had to expand our range because there wasn't any cars available. And we didn't know how to price these kind of cars. Like I know how to price a car that we buy $2,500. Well, price it for $3,500. I mean, we make $1,000 on that. Fine, let it roll. I know how to price those cars. I don't know how to price a car that I was paying $6,500, $7,000. I don't know how much I was supposed to make on a car like that. So we would call around to other dealerships that had similar cars and ask them the price on their car, because they would even put them online.
Yeah.
And there would be no price. You'd have to call to actually get the price. So we would call some dealerships to find out price. I remember this one dealership. There was a 2005 Nissan Altima. Nothing special. It was a cheap car. It should have been like a $4,500 car or whatever. But we called to see how much they were selling it for. And they're like, well, how much can you pay a month? And we're like, no, we just want to buy the car. How much is the car? Well, we don't really operate like that. If you want to come in, we can run your credit. We can see how much you can afford a month and see what how much of a payment do you want to make a month. It's like, no, I just want to just tell me the price of the car. I want to know the price of the car. Well, we don't really work like that. I would never, that conversation was 4 years ago. I will never forget that conversation because of how ridiculous it was. And people I guess they just go in and say, okay, I can afford $400 a month. They have no clue what they're paying for the car.
Well, exactly. I mean, when you realize that 85% of customers out there are payment buyers, that's what they are. All they're buying is what their monthly payment is. They don't necessarily care how long the loan's for. They don't necessarily care how much the car is. All they want to know is that I just need to send a check of $400 every month to the bank and we're good. That's all they want to know. And so can those type of people be taken advantage of? Absolutely. Which is why that dealer didn't want to tell you the price of a car, because they know that probably less than 5% of the customers that come into that dealership could ever afford to pay cash. So they know everybody's a payment buyer, and we need to know your down payment. We need to know what your credit history is, and what can you afford monthly? And we'll figure out how to make that work for you. That's what a lot of dealerships do.
All right, recap. What did we learn today, kids? We learned that marketing employees from these manufacturers don't effing matter, and make sure you know what a good deal is on a car. Go in and negotiate. Don't even ask for the deals. Just go try to get your price. They'll make it happen however they want to make it happen. Don't be a payment buyer. Know what you're paying for the actual car. And then if you can, I think Ray would agree with this. If you're going to get a loan, go to your bank, go to your credit union. You're going to get the best rate from them. And then you can try to make the dealership beat it, I would guess, on the other side around. But don't finance a car. Pay cash. That's what you really should do. But for me and for Ray, for my wife, for producer behind the scenes, his name is also Brandon. Thank you guys for watching the video, and subscribe, like, comment, do all the things. Let us know if you like this new format. Live stream for about 30 minutes, post it, and you get to see Ray and my face for only 30 minutes. So it's got to be a positive for you.
I don't know how it couldn't be a positive for people.
All right, you guys have a great day. Thank you. Thanks, Ray.
Yep. Thanks, Brandon.